tribunal established to settle employment disputes in regional institutions.
And the CARPHA equipped to test for the novel coronavirus. Welcome to the CARICOM NewsTime for the week ending Friday, the 14th of February. I am Tosankeen English Francis.
And I am Michelle Nurse. Thanks for joining us.
The Caribbean community has established an administrative tribunal to settle employment disputes in community institutions, as well as the CARICOM Secretariat. The 5-member Caribbean Community Administrative Tribunal, for which Mr. Patterson Cheltenham of Barbados will serve as president, was appointed by the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission. They took their oaths of office recently in Barbados before Justice Adrian Saunders, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice. The members of the judicial body will serve a 5-year term.
Establishment of this tribunal represents for me yet another indication of CARICOM's commitment to upholding the rule of law. The tribunal provides enhanced access to justice for staff members of CARICOM institutions, and is therefore with a deep sense of pride and satisfaction that we witness today's launch.
The Caribbean community, as an international organization, enjoys immunity from lawsuits brought in national courts. The tribunal will therefore serve as a judicial body to adjudicate situations in which employees still feel aggrieved after they may have exhausted internal dispute resolutions mechanisms.
The reference medical microbiology laboratory at the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, is ready and fully equipped to test samples of suspected cases of the novel coronavirus. CARPHA's Executive Director, Dr. Joyce St. John, said while the region has not confirmed any imported case of the virus, the Regional Public Health Agency beefed up its capacity to respond to the threat. Justine Dunkley-Malcolm spoke with Dr. St. John and filed this story.
The Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, now has the ability to do testing for the novel coronavirus, which the World Health Organization has named COVID-19. The CARPHA laboratory is accredited to internationally recognized standards and provides testing services for national laboratories, not for individuals. It takes between 24 and 48 hours from the time CARPHA receives a sample to get the results, which are shared electronically with member states. Executive Director of CARPHA, Dr. Joyce St. John, tells us more.
What we have been doing is monitoring the situation very carefully. And our role is to ensure that we have credible information, analyze that information, and package it in ways that are tailor-made for the Caribbean.
Absolutely.
So that we give persons credible information and we give the health authorities especially their advice on how to make the defense against this outbreak an effective one in the Caribbean. We have the capacity to test for the virus.
Right.
We started testing samples.
I did see that on your social media. I saw that.
In the interview, Dr. St. John also explained what the virus was, how it can be transmitted, and debunked a number of myths that have been circulating. She also gave some useful tips that can help to prevent the spread of the virus in the event of an outbreak, but hastened to point out that there were no reported cases in the CARICOM region and that the current risk of an outbreak was low. Check out the full interview with the CARPHA Executive Director on the CARICOM YouTube channel.
The Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB, is projecting regional economic growth to increase to 4.1% in 2020, buoyed by rapid growth in new oil producer Guyana. Speaking at the bank's annual news conference, President of the bank, Dr. Warren Smith, cautioned that wider regional economic growth will be uneven. He urged borrowing member countries to pursue policy reforms that were conducive to sustainable growth rates.
We're projecting regional GDP growth of 4.1%, consistent with expectations of accelerated global economic activity. With estimated daily production of about 100,000 barrels of oil, Guyana should dominate regional growth performance this year. Other growth drivers in the region should be the construction, tourism, and agriculture sectors. But economic growth will remain lopsided and below the sustainable rates needed for long-term resilience. Borrowing members must stay on course with their homegrown socio-economic reform programs. Others should join the bandwagon and commence with alacrity implementation of their own adjustment programs.
Bahamians whose houses were damaged by Hurricane Dorian last September will be better able to undertake repairs and reconstruction through the Government of Bahamas Home Repair Program. Under the program, residents on the islands of Abaco and Grand Bahama will be able to access up to US $10,000 depending on the level of damage to the homes.
There is widespread damage to homes across the disaster zones. In an effort to assist Bahamians who need help rebuilding, my government launched the Small Home Repair Program this past Monday in Grand Bahama. The Abaco program will be launched next week. There will be 4 categories for which vouchers will be granted. Residents whose homes were assessed with minimal damage will be eligible for $2,500 in vouchers. Those with medium damage will be eligible for $5,000 in vouchers. Those with major damage will be eligible for $7,500 in vouchers. And those whose homes were destroyed will be eligible for $10,000 in vouchers.
The government of Barbados is taking action to allow CARICOM nationals who are agricultural workers, artisans, artists, and security officers to access provisions of the CARICOM single market and economy in Barbados. The country is also moving to ensure that the rights of spouses and dependents of CARICOM nationals who work and live in the country are protected. Prime Minister of Barbados and Chairman of the Community, the Honorable Mia Motley, has piloted the CARICOM Freedom of Movement of Persons Amendment Bill in the Barbados National Assembly. The amendment will, among other things, give effect to the Protocol on Contingent Rights that Heads of Government adopted in 2018.
What we are doing simply is bringing this in line with the decisions taken by the Heads of Government that will now see agricultural workers and security guards that have been certified as such by an authorized agency or competent authority being able to move under this piece of legislation and to be able to find work in any country that is signatory to the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas for the CARICOM single market and single economy. The bill that is before us, Mr. Speaker, defines very clearly what is meant by an agricultural worker, what is meant by an artisan. It sets out how a person can so prove that they are any of these persons, what is meant by an artist. In addition to this, we're using the opportunity just to clean up aspects of the functioning in the legislation and to define what is a community national, qualifying community, Caribbean community state, the provisional entry that is allowed also for the dependents of the person. A person who is moving under this invariably will not move without their spouse or their little children. And we make it very clear. And I'm happy that over the course of the last 18 months or so, we've been able to bring clarity to the protocol on contingent rights and to make it actionable on the part of us to allow for persons to be able to start to know what benefits they can get when they move from country to country.
Guyana's capacity to implement the United Nations Arms Trade Treaty is being strengthened through assistance from the European Union. While Guyana and other CARICOM member states have ratified the Arms Trade Treaty, implementation remains a challenge in areas such as national legislation, regulations, procedures, and national control list. Under the EU's Arms Trade Treaty Outreach Project, high-level officials within Guyana's security services participated in a two-day workshop recently to enhance their capacity to manage and enforce international arms transfers. The ATT is the only global legally binding treaty governing import, export, transit, transshipment, and brokering of arms. The treaty also seeks to prevent the diversion to unauthorized end users. Guyana's Minister of Public Security, the Honorable Kemraj Ramtatan, in his address, underscored the critical importance of the workshop in the region plagued by gun crimes.
So it is my hope, and I am certain that the knowledge shared here today will be well received and will better advance Guyana's position in fully implementing the Arms Trade Treaty, namely in consolidating our national legal framework on arms control, and also being in consonant with the CARICOM model law. This workshop, participants with the European experts will report and confront views on possible amendments to our national law, present and exchange experiences in elaborating conventional weapons transfer control lists and how to do that more accurately and authentically, compare national and European practices of designing and elaborating information technology tools to support the arms transfer control.
The International Court of Justice, the ICJ, will begin hearing oral submissions from Guyana on its border dispute with Venezuela on the 23rd of March. The dispute arose from Venezuela's contention of the validity of the 1899 arbitral award that found that the Essequibo region lies on British Guyana's side of the border with Venezuela. Venezuela has so far taken the position that the court has no jurisdiction over the dispute and that it will not participate in the proceedings. Guyana has placed the case before the ICJ for final and binding resolution. For these and other stories, you can visit the CARICOM news site at today.caricom.org or the CARICOM website at caricom.org.
Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you next time.